how things are framed are really manipulative because they make women feel like if I'm against having girls all play on the same sports, if I'm against having a boy play on a girl's sports, then I must be anti-trans or I want these kids to be bullied. No, those things have nothing to do with each other. We are standing up for the safety and the privacy of girls, period. Just for a healthy environment in sports for women. Think about all the benefits that sports brings. And I have 5 kids, 3 of them are girls, and they've all played competitive sports. And one is in college playing volleyball at the Naval Academy right now.
Wow.
And so they are competitive, and if they had to play against a boy on their volleyball teams, they would probably not have gotten those scholarships.
No.
And they could have gotten seriously injured,
right.
which has happened.
Yes, I've seen those videos.
Yeah.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to TLM Nation. I am excited for this conversation, which is something I seem to say a lot these days because I've had some really great people in here. So I've got Kim Miller in here. I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what she does and introduce her. But in the meantime, you guys know what to do after we're done. Leave us a review, definitely 5 stars, and we will get everything that you need to know and how to contact Kim in the show notes afterwards. But I will let Kim take it away. Tell me exactly like what you do, and then we'll dive into some of the little bullet points that we talked about.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for having me on,
You bet.
Tracey. I love it. You and I have gotten to know each other through a Bible study, and it's just been amazing, and mostly women in there, and I think all of them are women, actually. But
and we know what women are.
And we do. We are very familiar with women. And I ended up getting involved and started this group about 3 years ago now.
Has it been 3 years?
It's been 3 years. Wow. And through a mutual friend of ours, Robin, and she got us, I was introduced to her, and then she connected me to a bunch of other women.
So cool.
We ended up, this was all right in the 2020 summer where everything was crazy and all of culture was blowing up. And so we kind of all looked at each other and went, okay, what do we do? Why are we here? How do we get sanity back? And let's hold on to what's true and help people see clearly, because it seemed like everybody had kind of lost their mind.
Yeah.
And
True statement.
It really.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the issues were being blown out to where people weren't thinking about it, they were just reacting. Whether it was race-related or the COVID-related things, people weren't asking questions as much as they were just reacting.
Right.
And so this group of women who were all, sad to say, most of my girlfriends over the years have not been interested in understanding the issues deep down, rational thinking. They are more emotion-based, which I know is a great gift we women have. We're very attuned, but our strength in emotions can also be our downfall if we let it go too far. And most of my friends were kind of in that area, and all of a sudden I was introduced to this group of very smart, thinking, rational women who wanted to get things done. So we started Arizona Women of Action. And it just came from, let's figure out what's happening in the culture and in the political realm so that we start to get a seat at the table as just a voice, how we were meant to be a government by the people, for the people. And so what does that look like? And we had not been engaged civically before, other than, we have a lot of women who are professionals and business owners, and we'd maybe follow a school board meeting once in a while, but nothing very, very much. And
the school board slid underneath most people's radars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it did.
And so we found out, how do you even learn to get on a school board or go to a school board meeting? And what does it mean to make a public comment? And how do I make sure my voice is heard? So we started just doing a little research, and we shared it out there, and we started a little email saying, what could you do this week? What's happening in Arizona? And we shared that, and more people kept saying, I want to get this email.
So good.
So what do I do? Like, that was always the big thing we'd hear all the time. I'm so frustrated, but what can I do about it?
Yeah, well, people don't believe that their voice matters, and they don't believe that one person can make a difference. I hear that all the time. I'm like, just get involved. Well, what does that look like? It basically looks like getting out of your own way.
Exactly.
Number one. Number two, it's like you have to ask questions.
Yes.
You have to.
You have to ask good questions and be willing to not just push in to change people's minds right away, but find out what's true. So many people don't ask the questions, so they don't know how to defend what they believe because we're tricked into thinking that we have to know everything and have the right sound bites and,
Right.
you know,
You
do
have to be
that.
rehearsed.
And you have to be rehearsed.
Yeah.
And so then people are silenced. We self-censor. And we have to just take the time to understand a little bit. And then if we don't know, then be honest about it, because 99.9% of people don't know either. And if you just ask them, they might find out that they really don't know the whole story too. But if you come to it with a spirit of just let's find the truth together, and you care about them, you respect them, you're not trying to do the gotcha kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Then,
which is huge.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
then people soften, and then we can get somewhere. So anyway, Arizona Women of Action started out as 8 women on a text chain, and now it's about 18,000. We have,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, we have
Seriously?
18,000 people getting our social media. Mainly social media is where it really blew up on
Right.
Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, which now is
Wow.
X. But yeah, and then we have about 3,000 email subscribers who are really active, and they have a
Yeah.
huge open rate, and so people are really, they want to know.
Yeah.
And we talk, our main focus is positive, effective action on your schedule, because women are busy.
Yes.
And we can't waste time, but we
Right.
want to know, what do you care about? And the issues that we cover are, human trafficking. We have a team, Stop Trafficking. We have a pro-life aspect called our Life in Action, education, of course, education in action, communities, and prayer in action. So there's something for most anything that women care
Right,
about and they
right.
want to make a difference in. But really, we just we empower women to have the tools they need to push back against this destructive force that's attacking their families and communities.
No, and I think that's the biggest thing, because moms were the first ones to jump in. From what I could tell in whenever we talk about 2020 and kind of the chaos and the crazy, I think moms were the first ones to because it was affecting their kids.
Yeah.
And even though dads knew, a lot of times they were busy with whatever was happening at work. And so you look at it, I think the part with the mom part, I think, is really important, because we are driven very differently.
Yeah.
And I think that you do have a different connection to when you say civics, you have a different connection to that. And we've been so complacent for so long, because we're just worried about dinner and worried about the school the
Sure.
grades and what we perceive the school is telling us that is legitimate. We're not looking at actually what's going on. I had a conversation earlier this morning with a client, and she said her and her husband were talking about where to put their kids in school, and they live in a different part of the country. And her husband was like, well, but this seems to be this is one of the best schools. And I'm like, but measured by what? That was always my question. What are you measuring that by? And so for him, it was really like, well, it's safe, it's in a good area, it's this, it's that, it doesn't have all the riffraff. And I'm like, but what about emotional and mental safety and ideologies that are being pushed on your kids, which you know nothing about because you're looking at the outside?
Right. Right.
So which brings me to the question. So you guys are working on some stuff with the girls, with the sports. So
Yes.
catch us up on that.
Yeah, so we got involved with the Save Women's Sports Act. We're defending that, trying to. That was passed in Arizona. I don't know if most of your viewers are from Arizona, but that was passed last year in 2022. And immediately there were a couple law firms from back east who got involved and got some plaintiffs who are biological males who want to play on girls' sports teams. And
That's my first question.
Yes,
Why would you want to? I mean, if you were the last dude picked for dodgeball and it was just all girls, you were just like going, something's wrong with me, right?
Right. I know, but that's what's also at the heart of this, and you know how the craziness and
Yeah.
how things are framed are really manipulative,
Yes.
because they make women feel like if I'm against having girls all play on the same sports. If I'm against having a boy play on a girl's sports, then I must be anti-trans or anti.
Yeah.
I want these kids to be bullied. No, those
No.
things have nothing to do with each other. We are standing up for the safety and the privacy of girls. Period. Just for a healthy environment in sports for
Yes.
women. Think about all the benefits that sports brings. And I
Yeah.
have 5 kids, 3 of them are girls, and they've all played
Yep.
competitive sports. And
Same here.
one is in college playing volleyball at the Naval Academy right now.
Wow.
And so they are competitive, and if they had to play against a boy on their volleyball teams, they would probably not have gotten those scholarships.
No.
And they could have gotten seriously injured,
right.
which has happened.
Yes, I've seen those videos.
Yeah, and so it's a very serious thing, and the other thing is that sports brings such a great experience of intensity and disappointment and grit and drive,
resiliency, all of it.
leadership. Think about that.
Yes.
All of the leadership that goes into being on a team and getting people pumped up and,
Yes.
and positive. All of those benefits go away for women
Yes.
if our sports are not protected. And that's the
Right.
whole reason that Title IX came in. It was to protect women and give them the
Okay.
benefits of their sports. And before Title IX happened in, what was it, 73, I think, there were very few women's sports leagues at all
Yeah.
in high school or college. And now there are, and we almost take it for granted, and now this is being threatened. So these boys, they are saying that because they are prepubescent, or that one of them is 15, actually 16 now, but he's been on gender hormones, cross-sex hormones since he was, I think, 11 or something. So he's saying he has not developed the masculine tendencies because he's been on that, which that's a whole other subject. And then the other boy is, I think, 11 or 12 and has not started puberty. But they're saying because they don't have advantages. Well, as if our hormones alone are the only thing different. I mean, males have bigger hearts, they have bigger
Structure,
lungs,
yep.
they have different muscle mass,
Bone structure, all of it.
bone structure, centers of gravity are different. You
Yeah.
cannot change that.
No.
And they know it. And the data
Yeah.
that they're proposing that shows that somehow there's an equal playing field is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's completely inaccurate, to be honest.
Totally inaccurate.
I mean, even if you take away the fact that it is
Yeah.
ridiculous, it's completely inaccurate. If you want to go to the logical side of the conversation, that's the part that I think is so interesting with this, is that we've taken all logic and critical thinking out of the conversation.
Right.
You've
It's
got
all emotion.
it's all emotions, and it's like, and I mean, did you ever think you'd be having this conversation?
No, even
mean-
defining. So I want to catch you up on that, because there is, even right now. I was just talking with some people in the Scottsdale school board, some board members, about a bathroom policy that is. They're proposing one of the first that I know of, or she knows of, one of the first bathroom policies to be established in a school district, by district level,
Right.
that would just define, in this sense, how does someone get an accommodation to use a bathroom if they don't want to use the male bathroom for boys and the
obvious.
the obvious. And even understanding that, there apparently hasn't been a specific policy that defines what a
Wow.
girl's bathroom is for girls and what is a girl. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It
It's
is.
upside down.
It is. It
So
is. It
yeah,
is.
it's Orwellian. And so anyway, they're just trying to come up with a rational policy so that there's a system, so parents, kids can apply. Here's why I don't want. And many kids do have a reason. Maybe they've had past trauma in their life and they really don't want to use a multi-stall bathroom. They want to have an individual one. That's fine. There's different reasons, but the gender issue is one of those
Yeah.
issues that we need to it's reality, it's there, so we need to figure out how do we help those kids. And that's the thing, as much as I want to defend girls and their sports, my heart goes out to these kids
Oh,
who
yeah.
are confused and just so often,
It's real
though,
it's real for them.
it's very real for them. Their feelings are real, but there's a whole other question. Why have the instances of gender dysphoria just exploded?
Exactly.
And that is a social contagion, as I know you know.
Yes.
And that's
Well,
because
social
adults
contagion-
are pushing this.
Exactly, social
agenda.
contagion and social engineering.
Yes.
I think it's both.
I think you're right.
I think that it's like if you have a certain way of doing things in your home, right? Like you're disciplined, all your kids play sports, you do this. Your children grow up with those ideals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at some of these other homes that they're like, okay, well, would the child actually be trans or gay if they didn't have that specific parent or that
Exactly.
specific push of a conversation? So that's why I think it's both. The social contagion, absolutely, because we look at it. I think it was like what was her name, Abigail?
Schreier.
Schreier. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she took a beating on
Irreversible
that.
damage,
Yeah,
I
she
guess
took
it
a
was.
beating on that book. But the thing is that you have to address it because we've had social contagions in the past that have been culturally pushed, which were bulimia, anorexia. I mean, all these kinds of conversations. And so, but you even go back to the sexual revolution, which is what these kids are being raised by the parents that were during those times.
Exactly.
So that's been desensitized. So that's why
Yeah.
it's a generational conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not just some 10-year-old that's whining about, I want to be this when I'm actually that. It goes so much deeper than that. And the conversations, I feel like, you're chasing your tail if you can't get someone that has a critical thinking process. Because you can't, it's like, it's true, cognitive dissonance is real. To where it's like, I just want what I want. So if you guys get these things passed to protect the girls, you have to look too, I think, is why are we even having this issue? What's behind it? What's underneath of all this? And that's where people they get out in the weeds too much rather than look at, okay, so what's the consequence if we do shift this? Who's really the vulnerable demographic at this point? Because I mean, honestly, and this is not my words, but from what I understand, the trans and the LGBTQ are the most protected class of citizens right now. And I don't know how that's measured, but and again, it's like I do feel for everyone who's suffering in the world. That's not even a question as a human. I mean, come on. But you look at then, what's the ramifications or the consequences if these things do get passed, and then you have young girls who then are in a very vulnerable place, which goes back to women again being attacked for all kinds of different reasons for generations on end. And it's interesting, like what you said, it's like if you take the stance of protecting women, then you're automatically labeled that you're against this. And I always tell people, why can't you be for something without having to be against something else?
Exactly.
Which to me is the intention.
Yeah.
Right. So if my
Right.
intention is to protect my girls, that's my driver. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not doing anything to your kid, because should your son be playing in biological girl sports? In my opinion, no.
Right.
I mean, you have male sports, and especially as you get from the the middle school to the high school to the collegiate, to the pro right now. That's a whole nother world. So where is the line then?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny. I was just at an event with Riley Gaines on Saturday.
Oh,
and,
awesome.
And so we know each other now and just have collaborated a little bit. She's being kind of connected with Independent Women's Network.
Yeah.
And great group of people. And so she's going around the country, and she spoke. It was so interesting, some of the points she said. She relayed this situation that happened when she was playing against, she was in competitive swimming all her life since she was 7 or something, and was at the very, very top, I don't know how many American, like all-American medals she'd gotten.
Right.
She got to the end where she really wanted to, be number one, and it was between her and one other swimmer who they've known for years, because people in your sport if you're at that level.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this mysterious person named Leah Thomas came up and beating everybody by 2 lengths, body lengths, which is unheard of, and both in the long distance and the sprint,
Exactly.
kind of stuff. Doesn't make sense. Long story short, they end up, they have to compete with each other. They were forced to be sharing the same locker room, and nobody was supposed to talk about it. They had instructed all the women who were in this top level to be quiet, and that they would not complain, and they had to do sort of education classes about all of this.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, this 6'4" guy just strips down in front of them, fully all there. And these girls, she said, it's almost like an impulsive thing where you just start to cover yourself because in this space you feel vulnerable. You hear this deep voice, and you're like, this is just not right.
Supposed to be.
And I'd never thought of this before, but she said that whole situation, you're asking, women will say, well, what am I, just because I'm for women doesn't mean I'm against, but who's thinking about what's against girls?
Exactly.
Because what are we putting them through? This is what she said is classic, really abusive behavior.
No, it is.
And what like an abuser would do would be to hurt you and abuse you and then make you feel like it's your problem.
Exactly.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
You should be quiet about
Ultimate
this. And all
gaslighting.
of that, ultimately. And so we are messing with these women, and they don't realize that they are being manipulated these and you're right, it's a lot of the emotional women who were trained in the whole feminist movement, which I want to talk about.
Yes.
And how that got twisted upon themselves to the point where we are literally erasing ourselves.
We're
And
doing it to ourselves.
we are doing it to
Nobody else has to help
ourselves.
us. We're doing it.
It's masterful. Whatever
Yes.
this psychological
Warfare
is,
Yes.
it's insane. And and that's one of the reasons why we're involved in this, because we want a place in front where we can talk about this issue and get women to think about it rationally and compassionately, but also to defend, everything that we fought for that's just right. And anyway, so it's just it's very interesting, this cultural moment, and I think it goes to, it's not just this gender dysphoria thing that's expanded.
No.
I listened to a pastor sermon, amazing sermon, but he went through this whole idea of sexuality and what God sees when He's created us and how we are. And he said, in a sense, we've all become where we have sort of human dysphoria. Like, we hate our bodies.
Exactly.
We're all at war with our bodies.
Very insidious too.
Very insidious. Yeah.
No, it is. And I see that
female.
It doesn't matter. I see that with a lot of young kids that I work with too, whether it's guys or girls, it doesn't matter. And we never saw that before. Like generations past, you didn't. And I mean, I believe there's a biological effect to this too, with the feminization of our young men.
Yeah.
Through not just through just the conversations, but through environmental toxins, whatever you want to talk about, however you want to go down that path, and that's another show we could do.
Yeah.
But I believe because I mean, I always bring up just the thing to kind of evoke an image, right? So like, if you look at your parents' yearbook and the seniors, they look like they were like 30 when they were 18, and now they look like they're 10. And so there's like
that's very interesting. I never thought of that.
Which is basically a hormone changes again. But now it's now it's in your food environment. You're not even aware that you're ingesting a lot of this, let alone now that you're going to put someone on them intentionally.
Wow.
So when you look at that, why I don't know any young man that I went to school with, and I know that this is just my story, but I don't know any that would want to play on a girls' sports team.
No,
I really don't. I don't know anyone. I mean, if they were on the girls, they would be like, I suck. I mean, I don't know any young man in prior generations that would have wanted so badly to play on a girls' sport, which makes you wonder the nefarious movement. Like, why all of a sudden did this person lead to, why did they all of a sudden show up?
Well, and there's some things that she mentioned in this talk that apparently she's followed, or people have followed Leah Thomas's, Instagram and all of his stuff. And apparently he's a confessed Satanist is one thing, which I did not know that.
Yeah.
And he's also still been with, women, but now he's with a man who became a woman, and now they say that they are both lesbians. It's so confusing.
Which is the ultimate chaos, right? Whenever God creates, Satan counterfeits.
Yeah.
So it's the ultimate. I did a story. I talked about a story the other day where there was a biological woman who had top surgery, who was pregnant, was with a biological man who was taking medication to lactate to feed their baby.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the ultimate confusion, right? You're confusing mankind and humanity. And so I and that's what I'm saying. It's like, this may start out as a conversation of protecting our girls in high school, but we also have to have an eye on the nefarious part of it, how it's actually getting as far as it's gotten by way of really lying to women.
Yes.
Really lying to women, which goes back to the feminist part that you were talking about.
Right. It's lying to women, and then women lying to ourselves. And it's a hatred for our bodies and our, and the design that we're created in. And you're right. It's this upside down, it really does come down to this just deep-seated psychological confusion and just hatred of ourselves.
It is. It's the same thing like with the body positive movement. Now we have obese women on sports magazines.
I know.
Which I'm like, again, you do you, but that's not a healthy thing to promote.
Exactly.
And women who were held to high standards were able to have specific types of positions for a reason. And as growing up as a young girl, you aspire to be healthy and to be all the, and that's why I'm saying it. But if you say something about it, then you're fat phobic. I'm like, no, I'm not fat phobic. I'm just realistic to say to you that this is not healthy.
Yeah.
Now if you want to do that, that's fine. But to be on the cover of it, and my whole thing is I love, because I don't ever see obese men on Men's Health magazines.
No.
You never, which goes back to, again, why women are still under attack. I mean, we are. So what did you dive
Interesting.
into on the whole, like the feminist part? I know you said you were doing some research on that and like what you came up with.
Well, it just been, I was reading up on that, and there's been some articles that I thought were fascinating about a lot of times women who had grown up, and there was one in the Free Press, which is Barry Weiss, who
Okay.
used to be a columnist for the New York Times, left. She's a woman on the left. But she's a classic liberal. She's not a leftist.
Yeah.
And so she's open-minded, and she shares a lot of really interesting articles. And she had this one woman who just came out with a book, and I can't remember the name of it, but she did this long. I've seen this woman's write-up in different things, but she's a British journalist
Okay.
who talked about how feminism, how I thought freedom was in feminism.
Right,
And then she
right.
realized it was not.
Exactly.
And it was all this, and so she went through this journey where she kind of went all over the place, and then finally ended up finding herself after she had a baby.
Yes.
And she realized, wow, now I know how amazingly powerful I am as
Yes.
a woman, a mother. And I realized that the freedom that I was seeking all that time wasn't the answer. It was actually, I have less freedom in some ways because I can't just leave and take off and let my child cry all night.
Right.
But yet that lack of freedom in that area is actually giving
That's the
me
power.
more. That's more
Exactly.
power. It's all that.
Exactly.
So she was equating freedom with feminism, and it really isn't. It's so much more beyond that. The other thing that I found was this meme that somebody sent, and I thought it was so brilliant, and it was the 4 stages or the 4 waves of feminism. And the first one was, let's see, can I show you?
Yes, and then we'll post it.
Yes, because it is so classic that I had to kind of like take a picture and then just, I think it just says everything. And I was just on a panel about feminism, and at this event with Kevin Jackson, and it was all like on wokeism.
Yeah.
And so I got to find this right now. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I don't know if I should try to show it to your camera.
Yeah, and then
but it's
we'll
maybe not.
There you go. No, there you go. And
But
then we'll post
yes, so the first wave of feminism is the woman, Rosie the Riveter, with
Yes.
her arm, and it says, "We want to be equal to men." Okay.
Okay.
Second wave of feminism, it looks like it might be. It's not Gloria Steinem, but she basically, I think it might be Jane Pauley
Oh,
when
yeah,
she was
yeah,
young or
yeah.
someone. And it says, "We don't need men." So it's first wave, we want to be equal to men. The second wave, we don't need men. The third wave is, Rachel
Yeah,
Maddow.
Oh, Maddow.
Yeah, we are men. So yeah, we are men now. We don't need men. We are men. And the fourth wave is, of course, Leah Thomas. We are women.
Oh my
Isn't
gosh.
that interesting? It's like, yeah,
You got to send me that.
where
that's crazy.
Where are we? We have literally erased ourselves. That
Great
is
statement. We have.
that. Where's women anymore?
Yeah.
Because we became. Oh, we're not. We're now men. We are equal to men. It's first of all of it is not. It's not possible.
No,
we're fooling
no.
ourselves.
No.
But-
Well, because equal means same, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's no
we're-
way.
We're not, and we shouldn't be, because then where's women then? Who's going to get the benefit of what a woman is?
Yeah.
We're losing all the benefits of womanhood.
Which what's so funny, Kim? This is I find myself in this spot all the time. That to me seems so logical.
Yeah.
So like how do you get to that kind of like the reprobate mind to where you're like, no, this is right. And I'm like, no, oh my God, how do we get there?
Yeah.
I mean,
know.
how
It's
far? I
slowly-
mean, what is it? 3 generations? Is that right?
of where you can just.
But isn't that? I mean, if you think
Yeah,
back,
yeah, you're right. How many generations?
So it would be like
The
3
Rosie the
generations.
Riveter- Yeah, probably.
because they say that they can change cultural society by way of 2 to 3 generations.
Yeah.
And then you can change it in a generation and a half if you have technology.
Oh.
Which goes back
Where
to
we
what is
are.
it? Destabilization, dehumanization, desensitization, and then demoralization. That's like the 4
yes.
steps of what that is.
Oh yeah.
And so when you think about that, that's really where you've got women now fighting for men to be women.
Yes.
Which when you say that out loud, you're like, how is that even possible?
Right.
And it's got nothing to do with human rights. It's got nothing to do with any of those rights because a trans person has the same rights I do, as far as I
right,
know.
right.
I mean, but and maybe there might be something caveat there that I'm not sure of, but I don't know. And if somebody does know, let me know. But you start to realize that you are a strong woman now, actively promoting a man to be a woman
Yes.
and to participate in the delusion.
Yes, that's the part. I mean, and that's why obviously we come back to this again and again. We're not being calloused or
No, not at all.
uncaring. We understand that there are people with different situations going on in their life. And by the way, most people who are claiming to be trans have had a significant history of trauma or
Right.
issues that have created this scenario.
I've always wanted to see statistics on that.
I know.
I really would love to.
I think there are. I know there are.
Yeah.
And we're working on that as well.
Good.
Actually, we're doing our next big summit is in February, and we're going to have Chloe Cole speak, who's a
Good.
very outspoken detransitioner,
Yes.
and what she went through and how she was pushed through in that process, and really her parents were pushed as well. And we're going to have some people who are,
the
medical
parents are
doctors,
coerced.
and
The parents are coerced into. Would you rather have a dead son or a live daughter?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what they exactly told.
Which is
told
fear.
them. And it's
Yeah.
totally fear. And so what happens is that we have been kind of pushed along and nudged, culturally to believe these things, and then we stop thinking rationally and say, well, what is it about me? What is my identity?
Right.
And I think that comes to the core of really everything. Every question.
Yeah.
What's my identity? Why am I here? And what are the great things about me? And also, I'm not just what I want to do, what I wear, my skin. I'm not my skin. I'm not my genitalia. I'm so much
more. It's the essence of a woman that I think that people have lost when people say, what is it? And I know I've seen these in debates, like, define what a woman is. Well, it's a female human. If we're just going to say that. But then it goes back to, it's like they're taking the masculinized trans woman and basically putting makeup and hair and, clothing and say, now you are.
Right.
Which that, to me, is just dress up.
Yeah,
Which goes back to drag queens, which has been around forever and ever and ever, but they haven't been in front of 5-year-olds.
I know.
So, I mean,
it's part of the whole
conversation.
Yes. And the push. You got to desensitize them early on to where sex doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Well, but yet I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. I believe that we were created male and female, and that there was a reason that God wanted to have us different so that we would complement each other.
Exactly.
And so, and obviously, there's not a stereotypical, there are some stereotypes, but it doesn't mean that you have to be, super girly to be a woman,
No.
And there are many strong women and strong men who just, may have a little bit of
different traits. I mean, it's like you look at men, and a lot of men in fashion. They have a different sense of style. They have a different fashion. Somebody else that's a logger isn't going to care what they're wearing, right?
Right.
So, which that to me is that more personality traits, character traits. I think it all
Yes.
comes into play.
Oh, totally.
And I think the biggest thing though about the conversation today is just the mass confusion.
Yeah.
I think social media plays a big part in that. And I think that misinformation for people, when you've got young kids, that they actually believe that men can now have babies.
Yes.
You look at they actually do believe that now.
Oh, I know. And I just wonder what's going to happen after. I pray that this goes through its course to where we look back and we go, what happened to that
What
generation?
did we do?
How did we do this to ourselves? Because even you think about these babies now being chest fed through some hormonal thing that this male
secretion.
person is taking.
Yeah.
How unhealthy is that?
Yeah.
Why is it we were so obsessed with, I won't even drink a glass of wine while I'm pregnant, and
Exactly.
now, but we'll just give them this concoction.
We don't even know what it is.
I don't even know what it's going to do.
Well, that's the thing. It's all experimentation.
Yeah.
I had Matt Ray on the podcast, I think like a year ago, and we talked about this. And what got me with him, because he was born a woman, transitioned to a man, and now he's
yes, I've heard of him.
Yeah,
yes.
really, I just adore them, and really cool guy. Anyway, he's questioning everything and going through all this stuff. He's paying dearly with his price, with his health, heavy price. But we talked about that, and he said, this is what got me. This is our generation's lobotomy.
Oh, Yeah.
to
it
where
is.
we're going to look back and go, what the heck were we doing?
Yeah.
You know,
I think
and
you're
and
right.
there's so many young people who are paying such a heavy price because we have a point of reference of some sort of normalcy as far as like, yeah, this is not it. Some kids don't have that, and then you have a
don't.
digital world to where everything now is completely altered.
Yeah.
And it really is the ultimate psychological warfare.
It really is.
It is.
And there's so much censorship too. So they, even if they are on social media, it's unlikely that they're going to
Find anything truthful.
Anything that's truthful. It's very, I'm not a conspiracy theorist type of person.
Yeah.
But the longer I've been my eyes open, the more I see things that just don't make sense otherwise.
Right.
That unless there was some type of, whether it's a accidental social trend that got everybody thinking this way, or if there were some people saying, no, there's a power struggle here, we're going to take advantage of this disruption.
Oh, it's by design.
I think it's
I really
more
do.
towards the design
It's kind of
aspect.
like you look at Riley Gaines. Where did this person come from? I mean, that wasn't just someone that went up the ranks and all of a sudden, hey, and that's where I see it's like you see the characters that play out that are pushing this movement. They're not there by accident.
They weren't just some innocent person that just woke up and went,
No.
oh, I just have always been. I mean, because he was competing
Yeah.
like just a few months before that as a man
Right.
and was mediocre
Right.
in his. But you're right. There's and people have been used in all of this.
That's the sad thing. Whether you are against it or for it, either way, you're still a pawn in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at even the Dylan Mulvaney and all that kind of stuff, and what people. It doesn't matter because you're still being used to push a narrative.
Right.
And it because if it was any differently, then you would see the people like Chloe that are speaking out against it and are literally a detransitioner. They would be equally given the time to speak, and she's vilified.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you know that there is an intention behind it. There's
Well, and even looking back at the
It's a power play.
the four waves that we were talking about, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, so which one, just in your studies and what you were looking at, which one do you think was the real pivot that really kind of lied to a lot of girls or women?
That's an interesting question. It would be, I would think, because that's hard to say. There's all of them are there's untruth in all of it. We want to be equal to men was the first one. And I think there was reasons why. There was legitimate reasons that we needed the right to vote, of course.
Yeah.
We needed the right to be able to succeed in business. But then that was twisted to say, oh, but women aren't making as much money as men,
Right.
which is a lie. It's all it depends on how many
Depends
hours a
on the
week the
industry,
person they
too.
want to, and the industry, and how much they're choosing to
I would
work.
say
and all
women
that.
hairdressers probably make more than males.
More hairdressers. But yeah, and then so the equality part was probably fine. Then we don't need men is a lie.
That was a big one.
To big one, because then we were taught, remember back Murphy Brown, that
Yeah.
show,
Yep.
and she decided to have a child alone, and,
Right.
and then it became this political thing that, I think whoever was president was George Bush
Yeah.
Senior, whatever,
Isn't it
said
funny
something about
how-
that. Isn't that funny?
Isn't
and
it
everybody
funny
went,
how all the movies and all the predictive programming, right? It's I even remember an interview with Cher where I think it was Barbara Walters was saying something about don't you like men? And she goes, I think men are really cool. I think men are cool, but I think they're fun. But I just
Yeah.
don't need one right now. And then she goes, well, my mom told me that you should marry a rich man. And Cher says, Mom, I am a rich man. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a successful woman.
Yeah.
You know?
Why do you want to be
Why?
a man?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. And I remember when I first started working and professionally, and I got out of college, and that was the part, probably the third wave is we are
Okay.
men is probably the well, gosh, but how do you beat we are women? But I mean, that's so bad. But the we
Pick
are
your
men,
poison.
I know, they're all bad, and they're all a different facet of the lie.
Right.
That you are not valuable, really. It's
As
saying
women.
that women, you're not valuable, you're replaceable, you're interchangeable.
Yep.
There is no essence of being a woman, is what they're trying to tell us.
Yeah.
And there's no inherent strengths to that. And it's all a big fat lie. But I remember, picking my first suit for interviews and stuff, and I had to look like a man's suit
Isn't that
in a
crazy?
sense, and it had to be a serious color and all this. But, but yeah, and that was kind of, we were trying to fit into a man's world, which at that
Yes.
point, it kind of had been traditionally seen that way, which of course you have to play the game a little bit to get in, and then and which we did change.
Well,
a
and
lot
you
of
also,
things.
I think you also have to look at it. Back in the 50s and 60s, women were more in the home raising their kids.
Right.
I mean, that was by design. Of whether you agree or disagree, it is a divine order.
Right.
And then whenever women, and I think part of that actually comes back, was it Rockefeller that decided he wanted women to pay taxes more, so they actually funded the original feminist movement, because he
interesting.
wanted women out. Now you got two to pay in taxes, and now you got their kids going
Yes.
to a government ran school. So that's
Exactly.
and that's a whole nother. That's why I said, like, what's the nefarious driver part of it? And nobody wants to go there because, like you say, it's a conspiracy. But when we have enough of a long view right now, that I think we can go back and go, wait a minute, how did we actually get here to where you now have men saying that they are women?
Exactly.
And completely erasing the fact that, no, we are the givers of life.
Yes.
And that's never going to
They can't
change.
steal our spaces. Like
No,
that is
no.
that is our space.
Right,
And we
right.
have to own it. We have to stand up and be women, put on our big girl panties
Yep.
and be women and own it and cherish that. And it doesn't mean you're anti-men.
No.
People say that to me, like, oh, are you Arizona Women of Action? Are you anti-men? No, we love men. We want
We
men
need
to
'em.
be men.
Exactly.
We need men and we need women to
Yes.
both be strong and to be individuals. You're not just a woman. That's what the left does. They love to put us all into a category. You're in this box. You're
Right.
a woman, so you have to think this way. You're
Right.
a man, you have to think this way. You're black or white or gay, whatever it is, and they want to make us into tokens.
Right.
We lose our individuality. So
Right.
I am a human being. I am an individual who happens to be a woman, and I have great strengths from that. I
Right.
have great strengths from, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother,
Right.
I'm half
Same.
Swedish.
Right.
So all these different things that are just a part of me. But yet the left wants us to not look at people as all of the intricacies and the beautiful things about their story.
Right.
They just want us to go, oh, you're this.
Yeah.
And that's where we have to wake people up and realize.
You have to, and I think you also
what's
have to hear
happening.
some really hard truths too, because even the best mom is not going to be a father.
Right.
And the best father will never be a good
Exactly.
mother.
Yeah.
You can jump into that space if you have to, if there was something that went the way that it wasn't supposed to go.
Sure.
You absolutely can, but there is a glitch whenever something doesn't work that way. And typically then, like right now, our collateral damages are our young people.
Yeah.
I mean, our children, our young people, our younger generations. I mean, I do believe too, though, that if you look at this playing out on social media, the other side is very, very, very loud.
Yes.
But I know that I work with and I see a whole different demographic of Gen Z that are like, this is just insanity.
Yeah.
And they know it, but unfortunately they're on the college campuses, they're in the schools, they're inundated with this, but they're getting to a place to where they're tired of it too. Because they know that this is all by design.
Right.
And when you realize you've been it's like the kids that are smoking weed right now. I laugh. I go, why do you think it's legalized? They know exactly what they're doing. They're taking our brilliant and brightest minds and altering it, no matter what you think. I said, so if that used to be like, like screw the man, screw the system, y'all are participating in it, So it's
They
crazy.
are the man now.
Exactly.
I
But that's
know.
why I think it's interesting when you have the conversation of, having like a passion for something or a purpose for something that that you like it's been given to you. We talked about that before we got on air, actually, to where it's like, okay, how do you know this is yours? How do you know that whenever you kind of and what would this be for you? So like if you feel like you're taking this on, whenever things get rough or you're up against these systems or things that what keeps you going? Like what is it that you feel like you want to accomplish with this?
Well, in general, with the whole Arizona
just
Women
your
of Action,
voice.
and,
I mean,
yeah.
The Women of Action, like speaking out against this, the whole thing with the feminist part, which we talked about, which that's going to be, we're going to continue to talk about that. I want to do a couple more segments on that because that to me is what's really underplaying our young women because they've been lied to on so many different things. But when you kind of get to a place to where you're spread all across these different platforms and these different things, like what is it for you that you go back to and go, this is my why?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I would say that, and I wrestle with God about that too, because how on earth did I get put into this? Why did you choose me? And I think on a very personal level, I want women to have a voice. I want women to have the space to understand the truth and to have the freedom to know God and to know His design for them and to really, it's freedom. It does come down to freedom because even Jesus said, "It's for freedom that I have set you free."
Right.
He wants, that is the goal. It's the means and the goal.
Right.
So having freedom is where we're allowed to be intrinsically the way we were designed to be. And that's
Right.
the way we have the most movement through life. We have the most, opportunities. We experience the most beauty
Right.
in life when we're free to be, to understand and have, the truth, because so much of what we're seeing now is there's suppression of truth in
Right.
so many areas. There's
Right.
no, and that's even, I think it's in Proverbs where it says, truth has fallen in the streets.
Yeah.
And that's like, wow, and what does that do to a society, a culture, a world when truth is no longer
Right.
regarded? And so freedom and truth are really connected. And it doesn't mean that you don't have responsibilities. I mean, freedom, you have to have constraints, and there have to be boundaries in order to have freedom.
Right.
Dennis Prager is someone I follow a lot, and he uses the example of someone who wants to play beautiful music, and they want to have the freedom to be a concert violinist.
Right.
Well, they're going to have to limit their freedom during all the time they want to practice
Exactly.
and hone that.
It's discipline.
It's discipline. But then in the end, they have this freedom to
perform.
create and yeah. And so that's what I want. Personally, I want more women and men. I want everyone to be able to experience the truth. And so that's kind of where I've always kind of striven towards, and I've been involved with apologetics, Christian apologetics, helping people understand why they believe what they believe.
Right.
And what does all this mean? How can I explain it and all of that?
Yeah. Being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's communication. And so this area sort of stepping into the sort of political, cultural world on issues like life and trafficking and education. What does it mean to educate children? How do you, creating a better world where our three main goals are strong families, safe cities, and thriving kids,
Yes.
which we think defines the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the dream of, it's never been a country like that.
No.
Where the people are the ones who are supposed to be in charge.
Exactly.
And we elect our representatives, and they are accountable to us, but we forgot to hold them accountable.
That's the key right
You
there.
know,
We were too worried about our lattes.
Exactly. And our busy lives and our,
Yep.
getting the kids to school, and all those are really important. But if we take our eye off of citizenship and our
Right.
and our goals in that, or what a healthy society looks like and healthy citizens,
Right.
that should be a part of our list of a to-do list every
agree.
week. What do I need to do as a citizen? And that's why we're also starting we just became a 501c3 organization. We have Women for Families and Freedom, because so much of what we do really is informational and
Right.
public service type of things,
Right.
helping people understand the issues. And
Right.
so that's where a lot of what we're doing is going to probably come from. And one of our big initiatives is going to be a Women of Faith outreach, because so many women in churches feel like there's this barrier where they can't, anything outside the church, or just the obvious, maybe the pro-life communities or things where you're helping,
Right.
a service project. All of that, the rest of it is politics. No, it's not political, it's biblical.
Right.
We are called to enter into the world and to love and intercede for our neighborhood, our communities. We're supposed to be taking those values that are so dear to us, that are true, based in truth and love and grace, and take those into the world. And so what does that look like? And how do we do that biblically?
Well,
So
and
that's
don't
a
you
big-
think don't you think that the highest form of loving someone is telling them the truth?
Yes.
And that's, I always tell people, I can't have a conversation with someone who denies the truth, just as a starting point.
Right.
Just as a starting point. I mean, we're going to differ, and we're going to have, great dialogue. That's what this is about. But just from the starting point, can you get to a place that there is only men and women? Can we start there? Can we just start there?
Exactly.
If we can just start there, we can at least that's our jumping off point.
Right.
But
exactly.
that's why I think it's been so skewed by design through chaos.
Yeah.
That you can't get someone, and then I love when people say, well, yeah, but that's not my truth. I'm like, this isn't about mine or yours. This is about a divine order of truth. That this is, and then you go back to that whole deep conversation, which is an ideology of beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think that's what when you talk to somebody, I think you have to, like we talked about earlier about communication, right? It's like you have to kind of understand the belief system and the bias of the person that you're speaking to in order to be effective.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're right. You have to come up with those. What are those ground rules that we
Exactly.
all let's establish how you see the world and how I see the world.
100%.
Yeah.
If you don't do that intentionally, and that's where, like, when you said, like, can you have a conversation of being humble and listening? Can I learn from you? Do I? And I'm all about listening and talking and having these conversations. I love that. But it's like in the situation with Riley Gaines, it's like so she is a biological female playing on a sport team. A biological male now wants to play on there. That's the truth fact. That's not
Yes.
debatable.
Exactly.
That's so let's start there. So if we can
Right.
agree,
Can we agree there?
Can we agree there? And because a lot of times you can't even do that. You can't
You're
even
right.
agree
And
with
then-
that. It's like, but then how do we actually get a solution if we can't even agree with that, with
with
just
the-
that one fact?
Exactly.
And that's where I think we're literally in this chasing tail with so many people, because they don't, it's like when you look at the school systems, right? I know you guys did a lot in the school systems and working like with Amy Carney and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, so can we agree that these things are happening in our school systems?
Yeah,
Can we just
right.
agree that?
Yeah.
I mean, have you walked through a school's library lately? Have you seen what is
Yes.
going on? Can we agree there?
Yeah.
And that to me is our biggest task. Is can we at least get to a place to where we can start with some sort of facts?
Yeah.
And then move forward. Because otherwise, I don't think, I mean, what was the outcome of Riley's talk? Like, what was it like when she spoke about that, what she experienced with Leah Thomas?
Well, I mean, she basically went through that. She's gotten, I mean, the NCAA tried to put pressure on them. She finally spoke out, and that was part of her main point, was how long it took her to stand up for herself. She kept thinking, somebody's going to stand up for us, a dad, a coach.
No.
Nobody was. And she finally went, if
take
we're
it.
not willing to stand up for ourselves, why should we expect anybody else to?
Yep.
And it's so sad. And I always, want to ask, where are the men? Come on, guys, stand up for these women. But yet they're vilified if they do. So,
Right.
But she is courageously speaking. She gets spit on. She gets thrown stuff at.
I've seen some stuff.
All of this horrible stuff. I mean, she was beaten. They at San Francisco.
It got physical.
Yeah, it did. And they held her hostage in a room for like 4 hours. She missed her flight. They told her, finally they were demanding money to let her go. This is crazy.
Yeah.
These people are thugs. They're just terrorists. That really is the true meaning of a terrorist.
It is.
And-
Well, she was put in harm's way, but I also think
yeah.
the other thing too, Kim, I also think by her saying where's the men, I think she's the only one that could actually tell that story to that degree. You know what I mean? I mean,
right.
she's living it. It's literally what she's worked for her entire life,
Right.
watching it being taken away. So I think she's the best, she's the best commentator for that story.
Yeah.
But I do think that if more men stood up and pushed back against this and understood that that's kind of their role as protectors and providers of women and children, I think
Right.
if you had that conversation with people, that is their role, because it hits different. It hits different when you've got a strong man standing up and going, this is not going to be tolerated,
Right.
versus women saying something about what they
Yeah.
perceive as they're just kind of the emotional part of it.
Exactly. Well, and I think it starts with the people who are most affected. The dads. A dad of a daughter has every right to stand up for his daughter.
Yes.
And I mean, that's the thing. It's just there, and even I was thinking about the man who got up at a school board meeting recently, and it kind of went viral. And he showed up. There was I think it was in the Higley district, where there was a dress code policy, and they were trying to allow for just all this, like it could be practically a little tube top
Yeah.
and whatever. And it's like, come on, in high school you got these things. This is distracting
Yeah.
to both sides. Let's just and so then this dad just showed up, and he stripped down as he was talking at this thing, and he had on this tube top, or little like a strap, like
Yeah.
a bra, and he said, now if I were at the school I would be able to wear this, and he made this great point.
That's awesome.
He ended up on The View, I heard, which I thought was hilarious, and of course they just tried to shoot him down.
Yeah,
but
we don't like The View.
I know. I know.
But you know what though? That's how crazy it's going to get.
That's how you have to stand up. And so there's a dad who stood up.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to make the point. And we have to get behind them. And that's the thing I would
Yeah.
want to say to your viewers, that, we all we have a stake in this. And our
Yes.
kids and our grandkids have a stake in this. And
Yep.
so we have to stand up and bring these things out to the front, talk to people about it, tell
Yeah.
them, ask questions. just by asking them, do you think this? And then
Right.
it gets them
Open
to kind of
conversation.
process. Right.
Yeah.
And then show up at your school board, write emails. Like on this bathroom policy, we're trying to get on social media right now, telling people, please email your Scottsdale Unified School Board and ask them, please institute this common sense bathroom policy.
Well, I like the common sense
It's
part.
just common sense, and it just creates a system where parents have to sign on it, but any child, no matter who they are, they don't have to go and get an IEP or what is that? Is it individual education plan? That's what that stands for.
Yeah.
Or a 501 or 504. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like for if you have a diagnosis that
A special need thing.
that
Yeah.
creates the need. But then this would be for anybody who's, maybe there's somebody who had trauma or so forth or things like that. They can apply for an accommodation as long as it's reasonable and it doesn't create undue hardship for everybody.
Yeah.
Then they could use the single bathroom and whatever.
Right,
So that
right.
way there's a policy. It's just common sense. But why are the board members who are leftists against this?
Mm-hmm.
Why would they be that? Because
Great question.
yeah, and they have not been able to answer that so far. So, and we know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where the culture, our society is today, is that, we all have the common sense, but yet these people are in positions to where they get to decide whether we can use our common sense or not by way
right.
of the laws.
Well, and they just want to turn it and say it's because you don't like trans people. It's
Yeah.
like, wait, how did this have anything? It's not even, there's not a word trans in the policy. There's
No.
nothing about that. Why are you going there? Because that's the only
That's the agenda.
thing that they can do
Yeah.
is vilify. They
Yeah.
have no facts. They have no. They know that this would just create guardrails. They don't like guardrails.
Isn't it
They
crazy?
don't like rational,
No. It's crazy.
defined. Yeah, they want everything to be chaos. And yeah, these kids are growing up in a world where we've just ripped the floor right out from underneath them.
Yeah, there's no stability and
yeah.
foundation. I think that's the hardest part. So as far as Arizona Women of Action, what do you see for your big mission? And then we'll let people know how to grab a hold of you.
Yeah. Well, our mission again is to really empower women to take a stand for their families and communities against the destruction that's facing them,
Yeah.
and to help play a bigger part in strong families, safe cities, and thriving kids.
love
That's our
that.
goals.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it is you can do it on your schedule, whether you have 5 minutes or 5 hours. We send out an email once a week that kind of defines what we're seeing
Well,
is
your
happening.
newsletter is
Our
jam-packed too, by the
newsletter,
way.
I know, and we've shortened it. It used to be we'd have 7 different
No, it's
action
good.
items,
It's
and now
good.
we thought, people are saying, I can't.
I'm
it's too much.
overwhelmed.
I'm already overwhelmed. But then they can click on more action. They go to our website, and there's some more things they can do. And we always list events and other, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot
No.
of great groups in Arizona
Yeah.
that I didn't even know about. We have an amazing woman who's now going to head our Stop Trafficking team. She is herself a victim of trafficking when she was in high school, and has written a book. We had her blog. We always have a blog in the
Awesome.
intro, and she's connected. She was telling me about all these other organizations that help victims of
Yeah.
trafficking or help. She even has she's a doula for births of these women who come in and they've gotten
They're pregnant.
through the trafficking, and she helps them to coach them through
Wow.
going ahead and having their baby. I never even thought about that
No,
issue.
there's so much.
Just the ways that she is entering into the healing of these women, finding themselves again.
That's amazing.
That's again, it's like we're helping women find freedom and strength, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, along with men, we have a lot of men get our emails
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
And so we
Well, it goes
want,
back to family.
it is so true. Strong
Yeah.
families, the family unit is under attack.
Yes.
And we're trying to stop that and stand up for it and help people to have the information they need, the courage they need, the words that are important to know, and how they can easily just step into civic involvement,
awesome.
And so we want more people to sign up and get our email. We want people to follow us on social media, and it's at AZ Women of Action.
Okay.
Is our handle. And we also have one called at AZ Woke Schools.
Okay.
And that's on Instagram and Twitter or X. And that's for exposing what you're seeing at your school. You
Yeah.
know, if there's bad wokeness stuff going on, what
Need to know about it.
policies, libraries, what curricula is coming home. There's a lot of crazy curricula that sounds really nice, like the community schools and the medical, what do they call it, school-based medical centers. Oh, that sounds so convenient. And No, it's
No.
it's separating parent involvement from their kids, and
Taking
it's
the rights away from the
giving
parents.
all these counselors who are not even certified and coming in and
I don't care how
talking
many
to their
certifications
kids.
you got. It's my daughter.
Or even, yes, even if you have I don't care. There are plenty of
Yes.
PhD level psychiatrists who I would never trust to spend 5 minutes with my kid.
Exactly.
So, parents
That
need
sounds
to
like
be,
something I would have said, Kim. No, it's so true.
Oh,
It's so good.
It's
so good.
true.
It is.
So we're equipping women, and we just need more people. We need people to donate. We always need funding, as everybody needs. But we have got an amazing mission. We call it our bold mission to reclaim reality.
That would be a great one.
That's going to be
Good.
our summit in February. It's called the Back to Reality Summit.
Nice.
So
Nice.
That's what we all need. It's
Yes.
back to the truth.
It is. It is.
So
All right.
yeah.
So, hey, guys, first of all, Kim, thank you so much. Everything that Kim talked about, I will make sure all the links are in here so you guys can grab those and click on there. If you can attend anything, sign up for the newsletter, follow them on social media. If you want to donate anything, all this stuff is actually going to build your communities and your families. And so thank you so much. And as always, guys, please like and subscribe and share this. Thank you for listening to this episode of the TLM Nation podcast. I hope you've learned something new and useful. I hope you're willing to ask questions and to seek truth. And be bold in that. Please subscribe, drop us 5 stars and a great review, and we'll see you next time.